is Notsam Wrestling.
Introducing your host from New York, here is Sam Roberts.
So let's talk about WrestleMania, because I have the hottest of hot takes for you, and this has been swishing around in my head for some time, for a week now, and I'm ready to declare it, okay?
All right.
Here's my take. I believe Randy Orton versus Edge, last man standing, will be better in an empty performance center than it would have been in that WrestleMania stadium full of people. I think
I want
match,
you to tell us why.
it will be better for the same reasons why the promo was better. The promo was better in that empty building because it felt more real. It felt more intense. It felt like we could slow it down. We could listen closely. You know, like the old Jake Roberts rule that, you don't yell. You just bring them in and you make them listen. I was able to do that far more because there weren't a bunch of people distracting from it. It was Edge and the camera, and he was talking directly to Randy through the vessel of me, the fan. And that's why I was able to feel it. I thought that Edge's promo completely adapted to the surrounding that it was in, and it made it that much better. I think that Edge versus Randy Orton, last man standing, will now be able to be like a real old school empty arena match. You know what I mean? Like Jerry Lawler, like Terry Funk, like the Rock and Mankind halftime heat. Like I think that it's a last man standing. I think that they'll be all over the Performance Center. I think they'll be able to go outside. I think they'll be able to do it all. But I think that it will feel much more personal. I think that Edge and Randy Orton are so good, and that's key, that is these two, that they'll be able to adapt to the fact that there are no fans, and that we just have to act like this is a fight between two men, one of whom RKO'd the other's wife. I mean, if somebody RKO'd my wife, I'd be furious. Furious.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I could picture it. You'd be
pissed.
very upset.
I'd be pissed. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know physically if Randy Orton did it to my wife, could I step to him the way Edge stepped to him? Probably not. I don't have the same physical attributes that Edge does. But the point is, Edge has those physical attributes, and I feel like this story will ultimately benefit from the empty arena because we will fall into this match, and this match will tell that story and be able to do it in a very real and raw way that I don't think would have been able to be done if it were surrounded by the pomp and circumstance of WrestleMania.
Well, I enjoy this take.
Thank you.
And it's a silver lining take, which is I really like, because let's be honest.
Yes.
Of everything that's going to happen at WrestleMania this year, the two concerns you had about who was going to really miss out on a deserved opportunity, it was the Edge Randy Orton match, and it's Rhea Ripley and Charlotte. I think those are the two matches that, to me, have historical implications. That if this Mania turned out to be a real dud, you'd be like, what a shame because of those matches.
And for me, Cena versus Fiend is on that list too, specifically for Bray.
That's a good point, because for Bray, this is an important Mania match.
Yes.
That's a very good point. Whoever his match would have been with, I think that's a good point.
For Bray, yeah.
So I like that take, because what may end up happening, if you're right, and you are right that they're capable of making it that good, the two of them are capable of it feeling intense and looking awesome, and us not noticing the shortcomings of the match, like you said, because you can notice people's shortcomings if they're not incredible talents in an empty arena.
Yep.
That won't happen with them. And it's a last man standing match, let's be honest. They were going to be outside the ring anyway. They were going to be doing God knows what anyway.
But how far into the crowd can they go in a stadium, right? Like, you can only do so much.
I don't like those things in the stadium as much as I like them in arenas. It's not the same thing.
Right.
So it's a really good point. And if it's really as great as you believe it could be, what ends up happening historically is that's all we remember from this WrestleMania.
Very possibly, yes.
That's what it was.
And
it becomes their WrestleMania.
Yes, and it becomes a positive. It can become a net positive just through that one single match. I would like you to present that take to stat guy Greg this week.
I'm going to.
Yes.
I'm going to. And remember, he's a shill too, so I'm sure
Right.
he'll love it. Anything that's positive, he'll run with. But I also think it's a good way to look at it for Edge too, because otherwise it's such a bummer that this has happened.
Yeah.
But listen, the truth is he got the Rumble pop.
Yes.
That was going to be the biggest pop he could get.
Yes.
He got the Rumble pop. It was amazing. Now he has a chance. Forget about the pop. Forget about the crowd. This is just about showing what he can do in and outside the ring still. And he'll have that opportunity. So I hope you're right. And I hope I hope that match is amazing. Because let's be honest, that's the story of WrestleMania. It's the best story Randy's been involved in a decade.
Yeah.
It's to me, it's my favorite thing that I've seen on TV in a very long time. I've loved what they've done so far.
In terms of stories, I think that and Cena Fiend are the two stories that I actually am going into WrestleMania going, I'm ready for resolution here. And that probably does trump it. The Orton Edge story does probably trump.
I think it's number one, but I think
Cena
you're right.
yeah.
Cena Bray has gotten there.
Yeah.
Because
that was another one, by the way. I thought that their empty arena back and forth was great.
Awesome. That was the best thing they've done in the empty arena so far, was that promo that Cena and Bray cut on each other.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it started off so weird. The first episode, the point.
Oh, yeah, the Fiend pointing.
The Fiend point and standing 5 feet away from Cena, but not hurting him. Like, I didn't understand it at first.
Right.
And I was like, oh, and then they've sort of worked backwards.
Yes.
And now I have cared about what this story is.
Yes. So, one of the things that has been reported, so apparently they're going to be, this is the internet talking. I don't know for a fact. None of my sources have told me this, just the things that I read on the internet, that because of what's going on, they're taping a ton of wrestling over the next week or so in Orlando, including WrestleMania, just so they can get it all done, so they can have it all. Like, apparently they're going to do, this is what it says. I don't know if it's true. But there are reports that they're going to do multiple episodes of Raw, multiple SmackDowns, multiple NXTs, and WrestleMania all in one big shot just to make sure that they have it all ready. One of the other reports is that this is, and I think this is official from WWE. I think in their latest, because WrestleMania has kind of changed. I think the first press release was it's happening at the Performance Center. The second press release was it's happening over 2 nights and with Gronk. The third press release, and most recent press release, I believe, is it's happening over 2 nights with Gronk from multiple venues. So that got me to thinking that some of these matches are going to have stipulations that would bring them in to other venues. And that's going to be kind of how they get away from the Performance Center somewhat.
So what kind of stipulations do you mean?
I'm glad you asked, because I have my list of WrestleMania stipulations for you.
Oh, I love this.
I have added stipulations to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches. I've added stipulations to.
I want to hear the steps for each match.
That I think will help. Now, there's a couple that we can discuss. Before I say, I have my 5 that I say these are definitely what I'm doing. And I have 2 that I go, this is what we could do, but I've decided against it because of the seriousness of the matches. The first of the 2 that I've decided against is you could do John Cena versus The Fiend inside the Funhouse or inside some type of Fiend-related space. However, I feel because of the seriousness of the promo last week on SmackDown, where it really did boil down to, we're telling a real story here between John Cena and Bray Wyatt, and how John Cena, without saying the word buried, I mean, the story is basically Bray saying, because you buried me, I had to become the Fiend. And John Cena saying, I didn't bury you, you buried yourself because you're complacent. So I feel like that story is so serious, we have to take it outside of the Fiend. Now, we could still add some lighting. Maybe that's a match where, I wouldn't say we bring the red lighting back, but maybe that's a match where we darken out the rest of the building.
Well,
and we just center on the ring.
I think that should be done no matter what.
Okay, for everything.
I think everything should be, you do not see the seats. I think it should be lit up like a stage, and it looks like a dark old school. You know how when you go to a house show at the Garden?
Yep.
It should look like a house show at the Garden.
Just darken
Pitch
everything.
Black,
yep.
Except the thing. I really think you should do that no matter what. And obviously with the Fiend you should. We got used to weird lighting in the first place.
Right.
So I definitely think that in that case they should have a darker match. But yeah, I don't think that match needs a stip.
No.
And I agree with you. Funhouse would be too hokey.
And I think Cena can handle an empty building. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Cena
think
is
so,
so good that he could figure out how to make
I mean,
that
listen,
work.
he's Cena, but Cena will also suffer from the same thing Cena always suffer. I mean, there is a certain level of cheesiness to the way he works that is always there. But it's also balanced by the fact that he's working with, in my opinion, one of the best there is in Bray.
I'm leaving Roman Reigns and Goldberg traditional in the building because that in the Performance Center. Number one, that doesn't have to be a long match. Number two, it's the WWE Championship match. Oh no, it's the Universal title match.
Universal. Yeah.
And number three, if you're gonna have Roman be your Universal Champion, just give him the moment in the ring. I don't think that we need to move that match.
No, I wouldn't have hated if their story had more. If there was more animosity, I wouldn't have hated that match in a cage or something just to protect Goldberg. It just doesn't seem that Goldberg has that much.
No, I don't. By the way, I have a cage match already, so that.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Unfortunately,
Right,
the cage stipulation has already been given. Yeah, that's already been given to somebody else. But you're on the right track. Drew Brock, same thing. I think Drew versus Brock can just be an in the ring brawl. Give Drew his moment. If that's the direction that's going to go.
I don't think it is anymore. I think this is a situation where the lack of crowd may dictate what the outcome is.
Meaning that if we're going to give Drew that moment, it needs to be the real moment. If it's going to be in an empty building, just have Brock barely beat him. Brock. Barely, but not in 30 seconds. Not the Ricochet. Not the Ricochet.
No, don't Ricochet him.
Right.
Or everyone else in basically.
Yeah.
Let them have a match, but I don't think there's a point. Drew doesn't get the same rub if he doesn't win in front of a crowd.
So save it for SummerSlam.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea at all.
We better be outside by SummerSlam.
Who knows? Women's six-pack challenge. I say just do it in the ring. It is what it is. It's an elimination six-pack challenge. Start the show with it. Whatever. And my final match that I think I'm keeping in the ring, although you could add a stipulation. Shayna Baszler is the cage fighter. You could do Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler in an octagon. You could. Wouldn't be the first octagon. You've done Lions cage matches before. Ken Shamrock versus Owen Hart in the Madison Square Garden Theater, of course. And I believe they did one on Raw, maybe with Steve Blackman. But you could do that match in an octagon. However, I think it would get cheesy. I think Shayna Baszler needs to look scary and fierce, needs to look like she can get things done inside a wrestling ring. I think that match needs to just stay traditional.
Yeah, I think it is a fun idea to consider, but ultimately what would happen is it would end up looking really cheesy because now Becky's trying to pretend to be a fighter.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yep.
Why do that? Shayna Baszler has already learned to become a wrestler.
Right.
So you don't need to have Becky pretend to be a fighter.
Yep.
Shayna is a wrestler. So, yeah, I think you leave that as is.
Okay. Here's my stipulations. Some are just stips. Some are separate venues. Apparently, we're getting Baron Corbin versus Elias. This match takes place in a concert hall.
Well,
I mean, why not?
Listen, why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Let's do it. Let's put it in a concert hall. We're not going to have an audience, obviously, but put a bunch of instruments on the stage.
Yes.
They go up onto the stage. They go into the audience area. They go into the bar area. You know what I mean? It could be great. Do it like at the Gramercy or something.
By the way, that is actually a really fun idea.
Yeah.
And you could shoot it in a cool way. And,
Yep.
and honestly, and who cares about that story?
That's what I mean. So why not
There is
just...
no story.
Exactly.
So have fun.
Use it to break up some stuff. We're going to a concert hall now where Baron Corbin is like, "Where are you, Elias? Elias, where are you?"
Yes.
And Elias...
He's going in the green room. There's sodas everywhere. Yeah, I love it. That's a great idea.
Yes.
All right,
okay.
I'm with it.
So Baron Corbin, Elias in a concert hall. I think we're moving AJ Styles and The Undertaker, not to a graveyard. That would be super cheese.
No.
Street fight on the street. Just an outdoor, on the street fight. Even if you could even do it behind Full Sail. You know, where they have that set where like NXT is in there. I think that, I think that AJ Styles versus The Undertaker would have helped a lot having the crowd there. I think that you will not be able to get away with as many theatrics. I think that this issue has become extremely personal. I say scrap the ring altogether. Go outside. Do it on the street. Street fight outdoors on the street.
And by the way, shoot it sometime at night.
At night.
So
Everything's got to be at
looks
night,
dark.
so it looks, yeah.
It looks dark and cool. And you could, again, you have to protect the Undertaker.
Right, exactly.
You're right. Without
Yep.
the theatrics, without the crowd hype, you're now just there with a man who's over 50, who does not wrestle very often.
Right.
So you got to have reasonable expectations. And you do it at night. You have AJ just bumping all over the place for him.
AJ's tremendous.
Choke slam through a car, through a windshield.
Yep.
All that kind of stuff.
By the way, involve Gallows and Anderson because it's a street fight, so of course they'd be there.
Yeah, that's a great point. Maybe Kane shows up for the Undertaker.
Of
Who
course
knows?
he does. Of course he does.
But I think that's Sam. I think listen. This is the best work you've ever done.
And
the pandemic is doing you good.
I'm using my brain. My wrestling brain is working. You could even have Gallows dress up as fake Kane again.
Why not?
Why not? Who cares? Why not? Let's do it.
Do whatever you want.
No, but I would say, yeah, the OC is there in full force. Kane comes out. Yeah, and again, Kane doesn't even have to take any real bumps. Plus, you can disguise when you're doing a street fight. You can use some of that fancy camera work, and you can disguise everything. Like you don't have to show. Undertaker doesn't actually have to take bumps on concrete necessarily. You know what I mean? You can jumble stuff up. You can go over here. You can disguise.
By the way, I know this sounds insane, and what I'm saying will upset people. You could even use a stunt double in certain spots.
Yes, you absolutely could. Absolutely could.
You really could have some. Like if he's going to take some ridiculous bump through something, don't have him do it.
Don't have him do it.
Someone else do it.
Yeah, why not?
And you could bust out other people besides Kane. Other random people could show up that we would pop for. Like I think there's a lot of cool opportunities there. That's a really good thought.
Yeah. So that's where I'm thinking with that. I love this one. This one, the more I think about it, the more I love it, the more it makes sense, the more it has to be done. So we saw the seeds planted on SmackDown. If Drew Gulak can beat Shinsuke Nakamura, Daniel Bryan goes to WrestleMania to face Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship. Okay. Obviously, I think this is going to happen. Drew Gulak beats Nakamura. Sami Zayn versus Daniel Bryan in a grappling gym on mats, and it's a grappling match.
By the way, this is you're doing the best work you've ever done. In your career.
If you're not handing me the pencil by now, I don't know what you're waiting for.
Yeah, that's a great point. It could be a grappling gym. It could be in a high school gymnasium.
Doesn't matter.
It could be anything you want.
Make it look like Foxcatcher. Put the mats down. You know what I mean?
Love it.
And you can have now you've got Drew Gulak on one side, who's rooting on Bryan like he's a coach. You got Cesaro and Nakamura rooting on Sami like he's a coach. Both strap up in singlets if you want. If you want, why not? Let's get crazy. You know what I mean?
And by the way, from the standpoint of guys who are able to pull that off, like from a sheer kind of, you have to be. This is a time when it goes so beyond wrestling, and your ability to be a great acting performer matters. Because if you're in like a quiet high school gym, you're in this unfamiliar place, we've never seen you here before, and we could hear the things you're saying. You have to be such a high level performer beyond being a wrestler. Who's more equipped for that than Sami Zayn and Daniel Bryan?
Exactly.
Like they could do that,
and they're
could
great.
Actually pull that off,
and they're actually skilled wrestlers. Especially,
exactly. And they could have a skilled wrestling match.
And Daniel Bryan, all he does is grapple. He lives for grappling. So let's get some graps going. You know.
And you can still have Shinsuke and Cesaro there to cheat and cost him the IC title and let Sami Zayn's reign live on.
Sure.
Which I believe it should. I think the idea of Sami Zayn hiding behind these two as champion is great. By the way, if you were to go back to the Elimination Chamber kickoff show, I was the one who said Braun Strowman should not sleep on Sami Zayn. He's the guy who's going to end up winning the title. Here he is as our IC champion.
You were the only one. You nailed it.
I know. I'm very brave. I'm very brave.
You nailed it. The cage match comes into effect.
All right.
Back at the Performance Center, inside of a salad steel cage.
Salad?
It's
the old salad match.
Salad steel cage.
God damn it! Salad.
It's Owens versus Rollins, of course. How do you keep all of those? How do you keep the Authors of Pain and Buddy Murphy or just Murphy or whoever he is? How do you keep all those guys out of the ring? You build a steel cage. Now Rollins and Kevin Owens can have a great match with no fans and have the assistance of a steel cage to kind of buffer some of that, awkwardness of there being no audience.
Well, and also they have enough history and real bad blood for that to warrant a cage match.
Absolutely. And it makes sense. Yeah, they have bad blood. It's been going on long enough that we need a definitive winner. And the risk of interference on both sides. They both have friends. Every single time you turn on Raw, it's an 8-man tag involving these two. So
I'll say this. If they don't go that way,
okay,
and they're just in a ring,
okay,
I hope they take all the other players who have been involved in this story and sit them around the ring in seats, but with officials there to make sure they don't enter the match. Because I like the idea of just that match having people yelling outside of it, the noise, the energy, the screaming, the attempts to try to get in and being held back by security. I hope they do things like that just to give the feeling, a little bit of ambiance. How many completely dry matches can you have? Yeah, I think that would, either way, a cage is a great way to do it. But I love the idea of, you're right, their whole story has involved so many other players. It would almost be weird for them all to be gone when we get to this night.
Yep. Final match announced for WrestleMania. You brought it up. How do you save Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair? How do you make sure, or how do you add to this to say, I want to really try to make sure that this succeeds for both people, really? Charlotte deserves a classic WrestleMania match. Rhea Ripley deserves a platform to stand on for the first time on this level. It's very easy to me. Very easy.
Okay.
Charlotte goes, Rhea Ripley, you have to understand, you're walking around here with this confidence, and I don't know where it comes from. This confidence that you have climbed the ladder high enough to be on my level. And then Rhea Ripley goes, maybe I haven't climbed the ladder high enough yet, but I will at WrestleMania. Because Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte for the NXT Women's Championship just became, inside the Performance Center, a ladder match.
Climbing the ladder, literally.
Yes, a metaphorical ladder becomes a real ladder, at which point Charlotte loses her mind because she can't believe she just accidentally walked into a ladder match through her metaphors. Come on.
Now,
then you get to see the Charlotte moonsault off a ladder. You get to see all the stuff. And keynote here, TakeOver Tampa is obviously not happening. There was a women's 6-way ladder match scheduled for that show. Since that's not happening, ladder match is up for grabs. And I think that these two women are the two women that should be in a ladder match.
And again, what it does, having all those ladders all over the place, it just adds to the ambiance and the scenery. It gives your eyes something else to focus on besides just two wrestlers going at it, which, as much as we all love wrestling, the fact of the matter is not every single match is meant to feel like a wrestling match from 1968. Like, we are now used to many different things stimulating us. And I like the idea of a ladder match as well.
Peter, after hearing my card, we've now got Roman Reigns versus Roman Reigns versus Goldberg Universal title. Drew versus Brock WWE Championship. John Cena versus The Fiend. Becky versus Shayna Raw Women's Championship. You've got Orton versus Edge in a traditional empty arena match, last man standing. Baron Corbin versus Elias inside of a concert hall. AJ Styles versus Undertaker, a street fight in the street.
Love it.
Sami Zayn versus Daniel Bryan, traditional grappling amateur wrestling match inside of a grappling gym. You got a cage match between Owens versus Rollins, and you've got a ladder match between Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte. Are you more optimistic for WrestleMania?
By the way, I don't want to give you this much credit. Okay. I don't want you to feel this good about yourself.
Okay.
But the fact of the matter is, you add all those steps, it instantly makes you feel better about what the show could be.
Come on.
Because we just need more than empty arena matches. It's just too difficult to pull off.
Boom.
Whereas if you add all this stuff in, the accoutrement, the je ne sais quoi of all those matches now, there's zhuzh. There's something there.
I added the zhuzh.
You added the zhuzh.
There's no zhuzh. That's the problem. I'm watching this going, where's the zhuzh? Yes.
The crowd is the zhuzh, and there is no crowd. So this is Sam, this is some of your best work. I truly hope that they pick up on at least a couple of these things. And you need to upload this podcast immediately because they're probably